Those are some photos of Myke Clarkson on some of his many adventures around the world in search of reptiles. You saw him in that last photo with that beautiful Bushmaster. He talks about finding that snake in my interview today. Myke Clarkson is my guest today from Herpetological Conservation International. He's going to talk about that conservation organization out to save reptiles and amphibians of planet Earth. And he's going to tell us how you can help with that. I trust that you're interested. You're listening to the Edgar Ortega radio show. Can you believe? This is video number 20. That's just this month, too. I'm working hard to bring you topics, well, that interest me. If they interest you, too, things are working out nicely. I do need your help, though, to continue. If you enjoy my interviews, please share them on social media. Follow the Edgar Ortega radio show page on Facebook. And if you really want to be nice, subscribe to Edgar Ortega on YouTube. One word, Edgar Ortega. Hit the subscription button, and all the problems of the world will slowly begin to dissolve away as you listen to my fascinating interviews. I think if you have animals, a lot of you have reptile rooms or bird rooms. The Edgar Ortega radio show is the perfect thing to listen to while you're working in there, or even if you're doing dishes. I heard of someone listening on their commute home yesterday. These are all quite acceptable. Talking about Myke. You know, Myke's a lucky guy. He gets to travel all over the world seeing animals most of us won't ever get to see in the wild. But I have to say that wherever you are, there are some good herping herpetunities near you. I'd like to encourage reptile keepers to go ahead and get out of the animal room if you haven't ventured outside of the snake room, and try their hand at herping. Just get out there. Try it. It's really cool seeing animals out in the wild. Actually, I think I'll do a show where we introduce people to field herping. I think that'd be fun. What say you? Maybe show you some of the hows and the wheres and the whens and the do's and the don'ts. I think I'll do that. Hold me to it. If I don't put out a herping video soon, remind me. Say, Edgar, where's that herping video? Myke Clarkson is here from Herpetological Conservation International, HCI for short. He's going to introduce us to that, and he's going to talk about some of the great animals he's seen in his travels, and I recommend you listen. Let's go to that interview now with Myke Clarkson. All right, Myke Clarkson is a wildlife filmmaker, photographer, and conservationist. He's worked to help in producing several programs you may have seen on National Geographic Channel as well as Discovery Channel. He's a field herper, having traveled the globe, always in search of the next species to document. His travels have taken him to 4 continents. He's the founder of the Herpetological Conservation International, an organization, 501c3 nonprofit, dedicated to effective and efficient reptile and amphibian conservation. Myke, it's good to have you here.
Hey, man, good to talk to you. I will add co-founder because that's definitely been a group effort for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, you're not the only one involved with that, but I have seen you posting all about it, so I know there's other people involved. Now, you're always running off to some remote corner of the planet out herping, like we'd all like to be. Where have you been recently? Did you just get home from somewhere?
Well, my last trip was South Africa. And
not too far, huh?
Well, it certainly wasn't my first trip there. I've been there for Speed of Life for Discovery Channel. I've been there several times for Shark Week. I've been there for sizzle shoots. I've led trips there for herping. And this time was actually to go to Port St. John's, meet with the people there, get some boots on the ground for HCI stuff, and then also to show Rebecca South Africa, because even though I've been there many, many times and spent a lot of time in that country, she's never seen it. And, you know, as a keeper, I really like the South African snake. So it's always special to see something that you've come to know in a captive situation and then be able to visit it in the wild. And it's a great, great place to see all of your iconic mammals, as well as some just really spectacular herps, from geckos to great diversity in the fossorial snakes and, of course, your Bitis and your elapids. So definitely a favorite of mine to visit. And I tell everyone, if there's a short list of places you should definitely see in your life, if you appreciate wildlife, South Africa is definitely on the list. I mean, we saw penguins, ostriches, and flamingos in the same day. So if you're
amazing.
a birder,
Yeah.
if you're a mammal person, if you're a person, it's definitely worth it.
No, you're living the dream out there, like many people I've been talking to. How did Rebecca like it? She normally you're off on the trips. Does you always take her, or is this just the first time she's been to South Africa?
Yeah, normally my travel is work related. I've been really blessed that I have a job that enables me to travel. I mean, I'm not going to lie. One of the things that enticed me towards production was the fact that you're traveling to film and you're not filming 24 hours a day. So when the cameras go down, I can grab my flashlight and hit the field. But we also take just personal trips, and we always try to combine normal person vacationing with herping. So it's always a balance there, because she wants to do some normal people things every now and then.
Girl stuff.
So last year we did Cambodia. This year we did South Africa, and we're planning another Southeast run this year.
Oh, wow. What are the accommodations like there? You sleep in a hotel?
Say again?
Are you in a hotel, or are you out camping, roughing it?
We mix it up. When I'm just me, I've got a Hennessy hammock. It's got a zipper over it. And for rainforest, to me, that's ideal. You can actually be in the wild. But when we travel, depending on the place, we travel everywhere from the cheapest hotel we can find in the area to small eco lodges. We usually don't go with the 5-star. I don't see the sense in that, considering that's just where you sleep.
Yeah. No, hardcore herpers, they put more of the money towards the herping time. Do you still, now you mentioned keeping reptiles, do you still keep reptiles? I know a lot of field herpers, they might keep stuff for a while and then they kind of fizzle out of it, but you still keep stuff, or has your interest more focused on the field herping?
I definitely, if I had to horrifically give up one, I'd probably say I'm more of a herper than a keeper.
Yeah.
But that said, I've kept my entire life. And I do have, some animals, not as much as I used to. Work travels and personal travels and time HCI consumes doesn't allow me to maintain a large collection, but I have a few of my favorites still around. So, a lot of Boiga, they've always been something I've loved. Yeah. And then, like I mentioned, African colubrids. So the Halier, which is now Goniotophis, your file snakes, are something I've always really enjoyed working with. And the wife's got a few pets of her own, leopard tortoise, dart frog tank, things like that.
Well, that's great that you're both kind of involved with it, and now she's traveling with you over to South Africa. You should take me at some point. I ask everyone about their beginnings, only because I know a lot of people interested in reptiles. They're in their own beginning stages, so I believe everyone's story can inspire people out there. So talk to me about your beginnings and how it grew into the passion you have for reptiles today.
Absolutely. It's funny. Everyone says, what got you into reptiles? And I was actually discussing this with a coworker today. I think I was the kid that enjoyed dinosaur toys, and growing up in the Mojave Desert, we had horned lizards used to be really common out there, and catching lizards in my backyard is kind of where it all began. I remember when I was 5 or 6 playing soccer and abandoning the goalpost to catch a coach whip and then bringing it back to my mom and asking her if I could keep it while the game was still going on. So it's definitely been a fascination of mine since childhood. But, as you grow older, I think the more you learn, the more you read, the deeper that fascination gets. I definitely think fascination is fed by knowledge. And for me, it's been reading and then getting to go out and experience them in the wild. And for, all of my younger years and early adulthood, I was restricted to, Mojave Desert, Arizona. It wasn't until I got into production where I really started to explore internationally. And once I started that, I think my priority swang to, international field herping is something amazing, and it doesn't have to be expensive. From LAX, which is my local airport, to Costa Rica, it's $250 a person round trip. So you don't have to break the bank to do it. You just have to make it a priority.
No, it's amazing. Now, I want to live through you a bit, and anyone listening. I like hearing herping stories, so give us a sample of some of the species you've been able to see in the wild. You mentioned some of them, but give us some highlights of your adventures up to now, and maybe personal target species you've been able to cross off your list that you're excited about.
Oh, highlights, wow. Well, I spent 3 weeks in Peru, And one of the all-time favorite finds of my life has to be a bushmaster, Lachesis muta, which they call shushupe there. It's the mother of death. They have a lot of names for anything they're scared of. And the particular reserve I was at has biologists and surveys going on pretty much 300 days a year or more, year-round. And they've been doing surveys there for many, many years. The last time they saw a bushmaster was 2008. So I literally lucked out that the last day someone said, hey, while I was hiking back, I saw a boa grande, which is an anaconda. And we'd seen, I think, 6 at that point. So
boa grande?
And I had just eaten a lot. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get a side ache, but I'll run out and see this boa grande before it takes off. And I'm running down the trail. I said the direction where he saw it. And as we're running down, a massive bushmaster just sitting there. And it was... to see something that big, that impressive, and that docile, because it really, at first, was not disturbed by presence, was pretty powerful.
Just out in the open?
Yeah, just sitting there. It had just finished raining, and it was literally the last day I had there, and it really concluded that trip nicely. Seeing the anacondas was neat, but for me, that bushmaster was the iconic snake I wanted to see in that area, so that was pretty awesome that it finally happened the last day. Let's see, had a call out on a shoot with a famous TV personality. Probably can't say who, but we were filming a sizzle, and we got a call out for a python under a doghouse. And so we went to this call out and expecting it to be a python, pulled the doghouse back, and out pops my first forest cobra. And it was, 3 meter with 9 feet, been feeding healthily on puppies.
Oh, wow.
But that animal, the intelligence in that animal and the determination was something I was not expecting. They really try to figure out the situation. You hold them with a tongue, they back wrap their tail on your hand, and they have a spine on their tail, so they spike you with it, which definitely spooks you the first time. And they then wrap the tongues and closing the distance between your hand and your tongues. And obviously a competent handler, the situation stays in control, but it's definitely something you're not used to, where the snake is figuring out the situation, calculating and countermeasuring, and you let that thing go, and it takes off towards the tree, and you're chasing it, going, oh, no, don't take off. And they wait till just the last second to turn around on you. And I've spoken to many people who've worked with them, they said to do exactly that you'll be chasing them, and they'll turn that chase around really quick. So just the intelligence on the forest cobras makes them stick out for me as a species that was really exciting to counter. And most recently, not a rare species, but my probably all-time favorite snake, Rebecca and I and 2 of our diving friends went to Costa Rica. And I've got Pelamis, or now Hydrophis platurus, artwork in my house. And they've definitely been a personal passion snake. And, we're all divers. We actually freed over this trip, and we hired a boat for a day. Again, I think the boat was $150. It's really cheap. And went out and saw 2 baby sea turtles, 2 sea turtles mating, and then came across a group of Pelamis, or Hydrophis platurus, and we saw about a dozen of them. And you could jump in the water with them. They swim to you with that curiosity, then dart away. It was probably an all-time favorite, just having them swim around me. And here's a lethal animal that's just curious what you are.
Yeah, I know those are really amazing highlights for sure. You're talking about that forest crow, I thought of Muldoon in Jurassic Park talking about the raptors testing the fences.
I went looking for king cobras in Cambodia and failed, so they're not on the list. I do plan to go looking for them again this year. But people have said forest cobras and king cobras are the 2 most intelligent snakes out there. And after seeing a forest cobra and being amazed by that, it put the king cobra up there. It already was, but even more so. That's the next thing I really want to see. That and going back to see Pelamis again, because they do congregate in large groups in the springtime. So I definitely want to go back there and actually film that and get some better imagery. When I went this last time, it was just a personal quest to see them, and I didn't bring the best underwater equipment. So I definitely want to go back and revisit them.
Yeah, it's great when you talk to somebody excited about conservation of any animals. You have that energy that keeps people's attention. I like your stories. It's great to see that. I have some eye problems, so I can't see so great, so I can't go on those adventures like you can. You're very fortunate to do that, so it's great to hear your stories. I mean, it's the next best thing. Your excitement for wildlife conservation. You obviously gave a background in your work with animals and your interest and your passion for it. It got you at some point wanting to start this organization. Introduce those listening to your organization, HCI.
HCI, Herpetological Conservation International, is a 501c3, meaning we are a federally recognized nonprofit charity. If you know anyone looking for tax-deductible donations, we are tax-deductible. Yeah. It was something we'd spoken of a group of friends for some time, that we wanted to do something impactful. And I think the more I traveled and the more all of us traveled, the more inspired we were to do something, because you do fly over vast tracts of rainforest that are out palm oil, and you do see small ranging animals. One of the most impactful moments for me was my friend Devin Massane and I were driving through South Africa after a shoot, and we went in and out of a Bradypodian range in a matter of a very, very short drive, and farmers were burning the fields. And I thought, this is such a small tract of land. It would be greatly beneficial to have some of it set aside, that it can't be farmland, it can't be burned. And ironically enough, HCI's first project is to build a reserve for endangered Bradypodian. Now, when we created the group, even though our logo is based on a Bradypodian, that wasn't our original idea. But as we looked at the different species that needed help, Bradypodian afer, which is the Pondo dwarf chameleon, definitely needed the habitat reserve, as well as many of the other animals in that area, including the Samanga monkey, a parrot species, a ground thrush species, several endangered invertebrates. So it became very clear that for a reasonable amount of money, we could set some habitat aside for these animals and do some really positive conservation work out there. And one of the things we made a priority as a group was that, and I'm not saying this to belittle anyone else's effort, because any effort to conservation is a great thing, but a lot of organizations lose a lot of the funding to administrative fees, to pension programs, to any number of administrative costs. And in some cases, 20% is going to the actual, say, land purchase, where we said, let's not do that. Let's make 95% or better. Now we're shooting for 100% of that money donated is going to the cause. And we stuck to that, where you give us $1 and $1 is going to the land fund. And the land we're looking at to buy is, $65,000. It's really pennies. I've done a lot of fundraisers for different causes, USARC and such. I know you've been a part of those, and we appreciate everyone that's helped out. I said, you know what, if we can raise money for causes, why not do it for this chameleon that really doesn't have anyone looking out for? Because, when it comes down to it, they build these big reserves around the megafauna, the elephants, the lions, the iconic things that are going to bring tourists, and the animals that need the most land. And it makes sense in a way, but oftentimes something with a small range, a microbiome, like the Transky region where the Pondo dwarf chameleon is easily overlooked. And that's where we're trying to fill that gap. Find these endangered herps, find these endangered habitats, and build reserves for them. And in a nutshell, that combined with education and community outreach is what we're working to do.
Right. I want to talk about the Pondo project, but you mentioned how a lot of organizations, you give to them, and of course they have to pay for things like the overhead, if there's salaries, supplies, you mentioned these things, operating costs, all that stuff. So it frustrates some people when they give money to an organization, to a cause, to know that only a fraction of that is actually going to the cause they're supporting. How do you manage to do that, to make sure that 100% of the donations go directly to your conservation work?
Well, one of the things we do is if we do have a speaking engagement with the Herp Society, we try to offset that cost negotiating with the Herp Society to cover travel expenses. And then very often, a lot of it comes out of our own pockets. Last year, we did several Herp shows, including Tinley. So whoever you see at that Herp show that flew there, they paid for the ticket. They paid for the hotel. That was their own personal expense and their donation to the organization.
Wow, yeah.
So we're fortunate that, the board, we're obviously all good friends, but we're also passionate about this cause and willing to make sacrifices here or there to ensure that there's, that donation can go to the cause and that we're offsetting all the other costs. And honestly, we don't have a brick and mortar office because that's another expense. And, there's little administrative costs that we have to cover. But, I want it that if a young child, an 8-year-old walks up and he goes, oh, that's really cool. And, I want to help that chameleon, and asks the mom for money or maybe has allowance and hands us a $5 bill. I want to honestly be able to look at that child and say, look, this is going to the cause. Because to me, that's important.
Not the air conditioning bill.
Well, now you need to pay for that too, right?
Yeah. All right.
But from an organizational standpoint, being able to have that transparency, which we have a gold rating with GuideStar showing our transparency, and we report everything to them. That's what we're going for, is immediate effect conservation.
Oh, great. Now, what are some of the problems that exist today that, led you to create this organization? You glossed over some of them, or you talked about some of them. We're familiar with them, but for those listening, let's say the palm plantations where rainforest was. What is that all about? Can I explain that to people?
Wow, yeah, that's a huge one that I personally talk quite a bit about, and HCI also will touch on as it becomes a news story. I first saw palm oil plantations in Costa Rica. It was probably 13 years ago. Maybe more, and I should know that because it was my honeymoon, so I'm making sure the wife doesn't give me a glaring look for not knowing how long ago that was. But, as you go from San Jose to Golfito, you see just the rainforest becomes lineated, and it's all the same plant. It's monocropping. Palm oil is naturally hydrogenated, so it doesn't have the trans fats through the hydrogenation process. It's also very cheap and very effective. So there's become a worldwide demand for this oil. Now, on the surface, it sounds great. Naturally hydrogenated, super effective, cost effective. Unfortunately, this palm has to grow in very nutrient-rich, wet climates, tropical climates. And as a result, it's caused massive deforestation in Borneo. It's pretty much wiping Borneo off the map. And as they're realizing that they're running out of rainforest there, it's in Costa Rica, they're buying tracts in El Salvador, in Cameroon, and rainforests around the world are being burnt down. The peatland is being used for palm oil. And it's something I personally, it's hard product to avoid, but it's a product I urge everyone to avoid if you care about the rainforest, because it is a huge detriment. It's one of the worst agricultural travesties to the rainforest today. That and in South America, beef production is wiping out a lot of rainforest, but palm oil is such a rapidly spreading problem. And, it's relatively recent that it's spread to this extent. A lot of people don't realize Borneo is the third biggest island in the world. It's got an over 30% endemism rate, which means the species there only occur there. You wipe out Borneo completely, you're wiping out a lot of species that occurred nowhere else on Earth. And without the habitat, no amounts of outside conservation work are going to help. They need a place to live. So palm oil is a huge one. There's a lot of other problems going on in the world too, though. Obviously, we all know about chytrid, the amphibian fungus. There are problems with certain methods of fishing. Some of the shrimp fisheries are causing massive sea snake decline in the Sea of Thailand. Some studies have that up to 80%. And then agriculture, just subsistence agriculture in a lot of countries is causing a lot of habitat loss. And in the Port St. John's area, you have a lot of subsistence farming, and then you just have expansion, just urban sprawl in these critical habitat areas.
Oh, it's some stuff to think about. Now, talk to me about what HCI does. You mentioned some of it. Talk to me about the how. Now, you get donations, and what do you do with them? You mentioned some education work, habitat preservation. How big a lot of land there you guys are buying? Tell me about all that.
So our first project, and we're doing a one at a time approach. We want to be concentrated so we can give each project as much attention as possible. So our first project is Project Pondo in the Port St. John's area of South Africa. And we raise money via fundraisers and membership. We have a membership program that's $7 a month. There's also a student rate and there's an annual rate. The student rate's greatly discounted. And our members get a newsletter and discounts at several reptile vendors, including Triple L Reptiles, Exotic Pets Las Vegas, where they get 10% off because they're an HCI member. Mike D Books. There's a long list, even a hotel on there. And that's just a thank you. And those are organizations and companies that want to support conservation, so they offer that discount. So some of the funding comes from the membership, some of it comes through direct donations, and some of it comes from fundraisers. All of that money is going directly into a savings account, which you can see where we are as far as fundraising via a tab on our website, which is herpconservation.org. You type Project Pondo, it'll take you to the donation page, and you actually see the meter of where we're at. The $65,000, the tract of land that we're courting right now, that was a harrowing drive to get to. That's a whole other story in itself. Shouldn't be, but I had the wrong rental car. Is about 205 acres. So it's a large tract of land for that area, considering how limited that habitat is. And it is pristine. We're currently working to confirm the species presence there, which is really what we're waiting for. If we confirm the chameleons on the land, that will be the Pondo Reserve. And additionally, we have big sponsors like Zilla has been very generous. Arizona Herpetological Association and the Chiricahua Desert Museum have all donated large amounts of money to the project, which is great to see.
That's great. Now, I was curious, is this a species that could wander outside of the protective range there, or is it something that will pretty much stick in there?
I mean, it definitely could wander outside the range of our reserve, but where they occur, they're very prolific. The problem isn't their numbers. The problem is their habitat's going away. And if their habitat is eliminated and denuded to too much of an extent, then obviously the animal doesn't exist. To give you an idea of how small their range is, have you ever been to Disney World at all?
No, I haven't ventured out there, just on this side.
Okay, well, I mean, it's a theme park, so you can imagine it's not massive, and their range is smaller than that. It's not a big area at all.
Okay. So if you get a chunk of that.
Exactly. If we get a good chunk of that, that's a big impact for the species. It's not as if there aren't a lot of them. There's just not a lot of land for them. And that's why they are listed by the IUCN as an endangered species.
No, that's good. And part of what you do, you mentioned, also is education, conservation work. I'm always looking for new, creative ways to educate people about wildlife. So talk about the education programs you talked about.
Well, currently we do outreach via Herp Society meetings. We've done some school meetings. Obviously, the stuff we put out online via our newsletter, and then also blog posts that we share on our Facebook. We did an article on Tonlé sap, which is really a hotspot for Homo lapsinae, or Homo lapsidae, I should say. They were colubrid, now they've been broken off, which are fully aquatic freshwater snakes. We did an article with Blanche out of Australia about the sea snake conservation or status and some of the threats facing them. So we share these conservation articles. In addition, once we have a reserve in the land, we want to work with the community. We want to not only employ locals there, but also teach them about the wildlife that is there. So that will really be phase 2, in a sense, of Project Pondo.
All right. Well, pretend you're talking to a group. You want to tell them about HCI. You just have a little bit of time. Talk to everybody listening on the importance of why they should support HCI and all that it's doing.
Well, if you're a fellow reptile lover, we have to realize that there aren't as many conservation organizations for reptiles that there are other groups. And reptiles and amphibians are very threatened, more so than birds and other groups of wildlife. What HCI is effective conservation, direct conservation. We are very, very conservative with the funds. They only go directly to the cause. And we're targeting species that are otherwise overlooked. And I think as a reptile community, this is a unique opportunity to support the animals you love in the wild. We all love working with them. We all love them in captivity. And I think to some extent, we should also all have that same appreciation for the ones that are in the wild, and even more so that these are our passion animals. And to be perfectly honest, there just aren't enough people that care about herps as much as the herp community. And that's why I feel we should all band together and do our part to help these species that we care about. There are so many endangered reptiles and amphibians, and there's obviously more than we could ever tackle. But we're one group trying to make an effort, and we're definitely, as I said, keeping it direct. that you're not supporting sports cars or well-paid executives. No one in this organization is making a dime. And if you care about endangered species, whether you're a chameleon keeper, a snake keeper, a gecko keeper, we're one species at a time, trying to benefit these endangered species. And really, our end goal is to see them not on the endangered list.
Right. So Herpetological Conservation International.
herpconservation.org online, and also on Instagram, and also on Facebook. And our Facebook also, just as a little aside, is we share all about Project Pondo. We have a great tagged note at the top, as well as a personal blog entry of my own about my visit to Port St. John's, if you want to hear about the drive there. And I'm going to be doing more installments on that. But we also share about any other conservation news, other conservation projects, other discovered species, all sorts of great herpetological news. So if you're fascinated keeping on the edge of that, it's definitely a good page to follow, and that's facebook.com/herpconservation.
No, you're doing great work, and you're setting a good example for people that want to do something but they don't know how. With your current project, one species, one project at a time. That's really cool. A lot of people love to hear what you're doing. They want to help, but they may not feel that they can donate. So what can people do if they want to be a part of HCI? Of course, we encourage them to donate, but what if you can't donate? Are there ways to spread awareness of the organization or other ways?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and I always tell people this too, that any donation of any amount is greatly appreciated. Every time you get a donation, the board all gets an email about it, and it's encouraging to all of us to see, people really getting behind this concept of, species at a time reptile conservation and habitat preservation for these species. But, it's also very helpful to get active and share the work. And even the stories that maybe we're just sharing because we think you'd be fascinated in, share that. Because the more people that are aware of what we're doing, the more we are going to be able to raise the funds to make this happen and future projects. And we hope to see the organization grow every year, which, 2 years in, we've doubled. But we want to keep that momentum up. We're also working on, hopefully soon opening a video department and having reptile news videos online. And, we have a lot of future plans, but sharing that and inviting your friends to check it out definitely helps a lot. That's how you create this grassroots effort, which is really what it is. None of us are professional conservationists per se. Well, Chip Cochran's a professional herpetologist, and Devin Missane and myself are professional filmmakers. It's really grassroots, and just sharing HCI's posts, sharing HCI with your friends definitely helps. We definitely need that kind of groundswell community support.
No, that's great. And if people aren't sure how, they think they don't help if they don't give large donations. But like you mentioned, any amount helps. It could be something simple as giving up one coffee every week for a month, and there you got $20 at the end of the month they can give to your organization or something like that.
Well, that's why we kept the membership at $7, and I think students $35 for the year. Oh, wow. But we figured $7 is less than a quarter a day. So not that everyone's buying quarter machine gumballs every day. I'm not even sure if those exist anymore. Last time I checked, they had sticky hands in them. But it's if you can spare that, that's fantastic. That's a great way to support the cause. And if you can, if it's just a small one-time donation, any little bit helps. If everyone pitched in just a little bit, if everyone who liked the Facebook page pitched in, I think we're at $4, we'd be done raising funds for the first phase, and we'd have the land. If just all the followers put in $4. So it doesn't require. I've never asked them, oh no, give me this. No, anything you can contribute. And we do have people volunteering their skills quite often. Most of them are surveys, and until we have land, we can't really do anything with that. But if you are out there and you have a skill, if you're an artist, if you are a musician, any skill you think you can contribute, feel free to hit us up. Message us on the Facebook page or shoot us an email. You can go on the About Us page, and all of our email addresses are on there. Because, it's all little stuff that makes a big project. And like I said, artists, web designers, anyone that has time to donate out the funds, and that can help too. And last year we did an art auction, and we had artists donating, and that was our biggest fundraiser of the year. And that was, again, another way to get everyone involved.
Well, it's great, and it's also encouraging to know that 100% of the funds are going towards the cause they're planning to support. Give us the website one more time. Where can people go to donate and find out more about HCI?
Our website is herpconservation.org, and our Facebook is facebook.com/herpconservation.
Myke Clarkson, thank you so much for taking time out of today. I know you're working. You came here to talk with me, and hopefully we can spread the word about your organization. And I really appreciate you being here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
It's great work you're doing. Thanks, Myke. Herpconservation.org is the website. You can go there to donate to HCI and know that all your funds go towards herp conservation. It's a great organization. Check it out. Great effort by Myke Clarkson and those at Herpetological Conservation International. If you have a conservation issue you'd like to talk about, please contact me. You can reach me at the Edgar Ortega Radio Show Facebook page. You can message me there. If you enjoyed this interview, please subscribe to Edgar Ortega on YouTube for more shows like this one. If you're into reptiles and amphibians and live in Northern California, be sure to join the Central Valley Herpetological Society. Great group of reptile lovers in that area. Visit their website at cvherps.org. Otherwise, I encourage you to join a herp society near you. Join a herp society near you. Support it. Help it out. Those groups need you. They need your help, your support, your membership. They do good stuff. If you don't have one near you, start one. If you don't know how, ask me. Also, support your local pet shelters as well. If you're into field herping or rosy boas, or both, and want tips on how to find rosy boas in the wild, check out my interview with Jerry Hartley, who gives us some great advice on finding rosy boas in the wild. You can find that video at Edgar Ortega channel on YouTube, so check that out and my other videos. Thank you once again for listening. That was a great chat with Myke Clarkson. Go ahead and support HCI, visit their website, and donate. herpconservation.org is the website. My name is Edgar Ortega. Thank you for listening. This has been the Edgar Ortega Radio Show.